If you wake up in this morning and feel no desire to rise, if a heavy stillness anchors you to the bed, not from exhaustion, but from something nameless, Jung would tell you this. It is not a lack of willpower. It is the voice of the soul, whispering in a language older than words. You may have blamed yourself, believing you are lazy. Others may have told you to toughen up, to summon discipline. Yet Jung discovered that what appears as inertia is often a sacred message from the depths of the psyche, a quiet rebellion of the inner world against a life that no longer fits its truth. In the next few moments, you will walk into that silence. You will learn why your soul sometimes asks you to stop, what it is trying to communicate, and how that message can ignite transformation. Because this laziness may not be decay at all. It may be the chrysalis before your rebirth. If you've ever carried guilt for being unproductive, for lacking energy for the things you should do, prepare for a shift in perspective, one that could alter the way you understand yourself. Jung once observed that modern culture worships motion and condemns stillness. We've been conditioned to believe that to stop is to fail, that to rest is to waste time, that silence is dangerous. But Jung's insight was revolutionary. Sometimes the soul must withdraw not out of weakness, but to reorganize itself. He called this psychic incubation. It is a period when the unconscious works beneath awareness, digesting experience, integrating insight, and preparing transformation. The conscious mind might think nothing is happening, but deep within the architecture of the self is being rearranged. Imagine your psyche as a vast organism, a forest renewing itself. The trees may appear dormant in winter, yet roots are alive in the dark, quietly expanding. Your body knows before your mind does that something must change. What you call not wanting to move is often the body's intuition saying, wait, do not rush. The old map no longer fits the new terrain. The body, Jung said, senses first when we are living against our essence. When it refuses to obey the demands of a false life, it is not being lazy, it is being honest. Jung identified several faces of this sacred stillness, what we might call the 5 kinds of soul laziness. Each one is a message disguised as fatigue. The first, the laziness of misalignment. You find no energy for what once seemed meaningful. The meetings, the obligations, the endless checklists feel hollow. This, Jung explained, happens when your outer life no longer mirrors your inner truth. The psyche, wise and defiant, withdraws energy from what is false. It says, I will not power the life that is not mine. The second, the laziness of unmourned grief. Sometimes your tiredness is not about the present. It is the echo of loss never faced, a death, a breakup, the end of an identity. Jung knew that unprocessed grief devours psychic energy. The soul says, stop, honor what has been lost. Until you do, it withholds vitality, as if holding a candlelight vigil within you. The third, the laziness of emotional overload. There are those who absorb too much from people, from the news, from the world's chaos. Jung saw them as emotional sponges. Their exhaustion is the soul's way of cleansing itself. Lying still becomes a purification ritual, a return to equilibrium. Neuroscience might describe this as the nervous system resetting, rebalancing cortisol, restoring coherence. The language differs, but the wisdom is the same. Silence heals the circuitry. The fourth, the laziness of life transition. This one appears during metamorphosis, when an old identity dissolves, but the new one hasn't yet formed. Jung called this the liminal space, the in-between. You are no longer who you were, but not yet who you will become. Like a snake shedding its skin, you must retreat to a hidden place, vulnerable and raw, until the transformation completes. In myth, heroes always vanish before they return. Change the dark cave, the underworld, the desert. Your fatigue is that descent. The fifth, the laziness of blocked creativity. Here the soul's creative force, its desire to express, to make, to imagine, is suppressed by a life too narrow, too practical, too afraid. Jung observed that unused creative energy often turns inward, curdling into apathy or depression. The soul cries, stop wasting my fire on things that do not matter. This is not the end of energy. It is energy demanding new purpose. In each of these, the body acts as the messenger of the unconscious. The heaviness is not punishment, but invitation. Your stillness is sacred ground. And beneath all of them lies the same question, ancient and urgent. What part of me is asking to be born? In these pauses, the unconscious is not idle. It dreams in you. It writes its myth in symbols and sensations, shaping you from the inside out, like molten rock forming new earth. It needs darkness, pressure, and time. The modern mind resists this. It wants progress charts and productivity metrics, not silence and surrender. But as Jung taught, the psyche is not a factory, it is an ecosystem, and ecosystems grow through cycles. Bloom, decay, renewal. The next time you feel too tired to move, imagine your soul speaking softly, "Rest, I am working." When the soul withdraws its energy, it is not abandoning you, it is recalibrating you. Jung often said that what the conscious ego experiences as loss, fatigue, or confusion is usually the unconscious preparing a new alignment. It is the pause between exhale and inhale, the sacred still point where transformation begins. The art is not to resist it, the art is to listen. When you fight the stillness, when you scold yourself for resting or drown the silence with distractions, you are fighting your own inner wisdom. Instead, Jung invites you to turn toward the quiet and ask, not what is wrong with me, but what is trying to speak through me. He called this practice active imagination, a dialogue with the unseen forces within. But you don't need a ritual or a textbook-only presence. When that heaviness returns, take a pen and write without censoring. Let your thoughts wander like a river, fragments, images, nonsense. Let it all flow. Jung found that through this unfiltered stream, the unconscious reveals its language symbols, archetypes, half-remembered dreams. It is in these fragments that you'll begin to see patterns, a recurring image, a phrase, a feeling that refuses to leave. Follow it gently. It is the psyche's compass, pointing toward meaning. Jung proposed 3 sacred questions for such moments. First, what am I protecting myself from? Second, what in my life no longer serves my growth? Third, which version of me is longing to be born? The answers rarely arrive as logic. They come as sensations, a warmth in the chest, a sudden image of fire or water, a whisper that feels truer than any rational thought. This is the language of the self, the archetype of wholeness, the guiding center of your being. And then comes the paradox. Sometimes the most powerful action you can take is to do nothing. This doing nothing is not apathy, it is sacred rebellion. It is choosing to be rather than to perform, to rest as an act of self-rust, to honor the ancient rhythm that all of nature follows, growth, stillness, rebirth. When you rest consciously, you are not escaping life. You are participating in its deeper pulse. Jung called this the alchemy of transformation. In medieval alchemy, the material that was to be transmuted had to rest in the darkness of the vessel before it could turn to gold. The soul follows the same law. It must pass through darkness, through the black stage of Negrado, where the old self dissolves before it can reveal its new form. You may wake one morning with different eyes, the same world, but it feels newly alive. This is how the unconscious announces that incubation has ended. You start to dream vividly again. You feel spontaneous curiosity. You sense energy returning, not forced, but natural, like spring after a long winter. The psyche whispers, now move, but be patient with the timing. The soul blooms according to its own seasons. Modern society does not understand this rhythm. It celebrates constant motion, endless optimization, the cult of busyness. Yet all great transformations in history, artistic, spiritual, scientific, were born in the quiet space between movements. Think of Newton under the apple tree, Buddha beneath the Bodhi, Christ in the desert, Jung at his lakeside tower in Bollingen. Each retreated, listened, and returned transformed. Stillness is not the enemy of progress, it is its origin. To pause in a world that worships productivity is an act of courage. To honor your inner cycles when society demands linear growth is an act of revolution. Jung said that the wisest people are those who know when to stop, because in that pause, they hear the self speaking through the noise. Rest, then, is not indulgence, it is devotion, a sacred right of the soul. Neuroscience now affirms what the mystics knew during rest. The brain's default mode network integrates memory, emotion, and insight. The mind literally weaves meaning while you lie still. The ancient wisdom and the modern science converge. Stillness is the architecture of transformation. And so the final revelation is simple yet radical. Your desire to lie down is not the problem, it is the solution. It is your soul protecting you from a life that no longer serves. It is your unconscious drawing you inward to rewrite the script. From now on, when that heaviness returns, do not curse it. Thank it. Your psyche is guiding you back to truth, in the only way it can, by stopping you. Because your soul does not ask for laziness, it asks for authenticity. It asks for silence deep enough for truth to rise. It asks for the courage to live according to what is real, not what is expected. And sometimes to hear that truth, you must silence every outer voice, including your own. So rest, listen. There is a new you forming in the quiet. And when the time comes, you will not have to force your next step. It will rise naturally, like dawn breaking through the forest of your